And we are back. And we just finished watching 2020's Unpregnant, rated PG-13 with a runtime of 1 hour and 43 minutes. This is currently streaming on HBO Max. I really like this. I really, really like this. This is directed by Rachel Lee Goldenberg with writing credits to Jenni Hendriks, based on a book by Ted Caplan, with also screenplay credits to Jennifer Kaytin Robinson and Rachel Lee Goldenberg, Bill Parker, Jenni Hendriks, and again, Ted Caplan. I've read this completely wrong. Doesn't matter. Anyway, this is the story of a high schooler named Veronica, played by Lu Richardson.
Starts with a V.
Well, Bob calls her that, right? Who is sort of a popular girl. I guess she runs with a popular crowd. She has a boyfriend. She's living the life.
She's very ordered.
She's very ordered, but she's definitely not one of the reject kids. She's definitely runs in social circles. She has big dreams of going to an Ivy League.
She's an overachiever.
Right. And as happens with teenagers making really bad decisions. Well, I don't know about really bad decisions, but
this wasn't on her.
This wasn't on her. You're absolutely right.
Dumbass boyfriend.
Right.
This wasn't her fault. It was her boyfriend's fault for not getting another condom.
Well, he couldn't have because it was too late. He just had to say something.
Something, right, that there was a hole or something. Anyway, long story short, I guess you can figure this out now. Veronica winds up pregnant and now has to make a decision that will impact her future. I'm going to go around the table and get impressions. Gigi, what did you think of this film?
It was good.
It was good, right?
Yeah.
It moved quickly. The characters were all likable.
Yeah. I mean, this wasn't a short movie, right?
It wasn't a short movie. It's an hour.
It didn't like drag on, so it didn't feel that long.
No, I thought the writing was good. The characters were really well fleshed out. You come to care for everyone. Some of it, I don't know what the word is. Some of it seemed kind of disjointed. I'm assuming this came from a book, so there was things that they couldn't put in the film, but it still moved at a fairly decent clip.
Yeah, it moved along. I feel I don't know if the tone felt uneven.
Yes.
Like I don't know if it was supposed to be some sort of like madcap road trip, which doesn't really, I guess, gel well with the reason for the road trip. I mean, it's like, okay, we're going to get, I need to go get an abortion. I can't get it in Missouri because I need my parents' permission to do that. So we got to travel 900 miles to Albuquerque, New Mexico. And it's abortion. It's not, nobody's like, yeah, abortion road trip. They're like, part of it was like, maybe the writers were trying to make it like that. They were getting into some adventures there.
Sure.
Like the whole,
like how they got kidnapped.
That was wild.
And
I thought this movie was going to take a crazy turn at that point.
Oh, the car is stolen, and
well, it was just obstacles to make getting there as difficult as possible.
Yeah. Because she had to postpone her appointment several
times, and then she's like, she's totally afraid to even call and like really confirm an appointment.
Right. Because I guess that makes it real.
Yeah, and then on top of it all, it's like, oh, and I'm also imposing upon somebody who I was friends with, but whose friendship I've kind of abandoned. And that was like one of the things that, like, why was Bailey was
a better friend than she deserved.
Bailey was a way better friend than Veronica deserved.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah,
but I think
like
so much better.
She literally drove her, like almost drove her to New Mexico.
Yeah, she was
even
willing
though
to
they
do that.
weren't even friends for like so long.
Yeah, and I don't know. Like,
well, I think at the heart of it, Bailey's a decent human being.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. It goes to what you were saying. She's a much better friend to Veronica than Veronica was to Bailey. All through this whole thing,
right?
Veronica was really trying to hold on to what she had established. The friendship with all the shallow girls, keeping this from her mom. God forbid the rest of the school finds out. And also, on top of all that I'm not really friends with Bailey.
Right.
Which, I mean, yeah, okay, I guess that's her character arc.
She comes to realize
but to me, that character arc felt it wasn't a smooth transition. It almost felt like it happened in the last, I don't know, 20 minutes of the movie.
The last act of the movie.
It was just, oh, she's here. Oh, well, I gotta go. I know where she's gonna go, and I'm gonna go help. And
her boyfriend was basically a stalker, kind of.
No, I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about like
when Veronica and Bailey's
when she finds out where Bailey's going at the end, and then she goes and then she gives like that big speech.
And then she does the thing that she does.
Act.
She tasers that girl's dad.
That just seems so late in the game. I don't know. And the fight that they had like right before that was a really big fight and a really telling fight, and it showed a lot of what Veronica's character was like.
Yeah.
Like the ugliness of Veronica's character. And especially at that point when you feel like, oh my God, they have really bonded now. They've been through like
all this stuff.
They've been through all of this. It's like a war almost. Just to get this stuff done, to get this procedure. I don't know. It just felt like this could have been smoothed out or written better.
Well, I think it's hard because you're doing it in a weekend, right? So I'm not
talking about the logistics of the trip or the time or the distance or anything. I'm just talking about the way the relationship was written and when those roadblocks and when those realizations come into play, because it felt like, oh, okay, she is realizing this, and then suddenly it's like this big betrayal. Like, to me, the betrayal should have probably come earlier.
Yes
and given a bit more time to realize what you've done,
what
you have done. There wasn't any realization for Veronica of what she had done or a moment where she could really reflect on it, other than, oh, she's in the back of the limo by herself.
Right.
For like less than a minute. And then it's like, oh, could we just stop here? And like, what if she hadn't stopped for the big gulp?
Right.
And what if the clerk didn't say, oh, that's somebody else just ordered that same exact big gulp?
Yeah.
Like, it just, I don't know. That felt weak to me.
Well, I think by that point, I mean, we're pretty far into the story. So
yeah, we're almost at the end.
Right. So you have to wrap things up
that's why I felt it should, like, these things should have happened a bit earlier so that you could have a bit more of a realization.
Right.
That, oh my God, I really need Bailey. Bailey is true blue.
Well, like what if the reason she stopped to like go to the gas station or whatever was because she wanted to order that drink.
That was the reason why she stopped at the gas station.
Because she was feeling, I guess, nostalgic and whatever, and that gave her some kind of solace. But then when the young man at the counter says to her, oh, somebody was just in here with that same drink.
Because he probably thought it was weird.
Yeah.
What did you think of the film, Olive?
I thought it was good.
Yeah, what'd you like about it?
How even though like they weren't friends for like a really long time, Bailey still helps Veronica, like, to get the abortion.
Yeah, that was very righteous of her. She didn't really need to do that, but
yeah, she could have just left her.
Yeah. This reminded me a lot of Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same story.
Although that story is a little bit more dramatic.
Well,
I mean,
a little more dramatic.
It was this a lot more dramatic.
Yes, this one's more played for a little bit more comedic.
This was a comedy. That other one was just brutal and
sad.
It made me so anxious throughout that whole thing. And it also, I mean, really the same sort of mechanism where it's like, oh, we got to get this done. Okay, let's go. Roadblock.
Yeah.
This one,
that's what like most of these like car trip like adventures are about. Mostly.
Yeah. There's always like a series of obstacles to overcome. But
like with the kidnappers.
Yeah.
And also like.
Well, when the kidnapper section happened, I thought this movie was going to become like a different sort of
bit more dramatic.
Yeah, or horrific turn. To be honest.
Oh my god!
I thought they'd be part of some weird cult.
I thought they'd be chained in a basement and he'd be
beaten to death.
I don't know about beaten, but
like even
made to
tortured.
Give birth to more children for this guy.
But even with that, I just don't know if that sort of like goofy comedy. I mean, the kidnappers, you know, they're not really that threatening in any way. They're sort of still. They're goofy. They're like wide stereotypes of, oh golly darn shucks, Jesus is great type characters.
Car, like they
that RV.
His car, and he just kept saying darn it.
He kept saying darn it, and they, even when he's like trying to convince them about, oh, you shouldn't get an abortion, he's not like screaming, you're gonna burn in hell or anything like that. It's just he's giving this like advice. You're yelling it out the side of his car.
Yeah.
Yelling through the microphone.
Yelling through the loudspeaker on his baby mobile, which I thought that was also hilarious.
There was a baby.
Yeah.
A huge baby.
A baby was chasing them.
It was like the happiest baby. And
the most like threatening thing.
And that's the thing where I'm like, I don't know if this sort of film works with this sort of subject matter, because you're like making these types of people, they're like sort of goofy, wacky people.
Caricatures.
And the truth is that they're not goofy or wacky.
No.
They're scary.
Yeah.
They're fanatical. It's for people who are going through this.
It's terrifying.
It's terrifying.
Yeah.
And those are the people that are the most terrifying, because
they impose their
zealotry, screaming at you. And they have their reasons. I mean, they believe that it's sacred from the moments of conception or something.
You know, those people
I'm sorry, Olive, go ahead.
You know, those people kind of remind me of like in the other movie, those people kind of reminded me of that video that other woman showed her, where like they talked about how like the video that old lady showed her when she was at that place, like about how at the clinic, how like getting an abortion is basically like killing someone, something like that.
Yeah, I mean that's their belief, and they generally, I mean, that's a serious thing to them, and they generally don't treat it like
a joke. Yeah.
And they're very vehement about it, and they could even get strangely violent in that case.
Right. Well, that's why I thought the kidnapping was going to go awry. As soon as Bailey is in that room with all the pro-life.
Yeah.
I thought he was like going to lock her in there.
I thought so too. I thought this movie was going to take a crazy turn. I'm glad it didn't, because I wasn't ready for any of that. But
it stayed madcap and full of hijinks.
But I think this particular, again, I don't know the source material. It's obviously based on a novel, but I think the intention here was to keep this lighthearted, because I think that this was one of those types of movies that it wanted to convey a message without that beating it over your head. But also, you have to realize, like, the scene that really, one of the scenes that really jumped out at me was when Veronica has that freak out on the train tracks, and she's basically like, I should be able to go down the street, open a door, go to a place and say, I need this procedure done. Instead, I had to travel 900 plus miles to have this thing done that absolutely impacts me. If I have a child at this point in my life, what can I do? What can I do? Can I go to college? Probably not. I mean, her boyfriend had this whole scenario planned out. Oh, we'll take a year off. We'll get married. We'll be close to home so that our parents can help. And it's like, but this isn't what she wanted, right? And I think that when she says, F you, Missouri legislature, this is kind of the battle cry across the board for a lot of these states where access to these types of procedures are being just completely eradicated. And I think that that's where this particular story is coming from. And again, I haven't read the book, but I'm assuming
it'd be interesting to see if the book is written in this lighthearted
way.
Sort of
road
trip
well, I'm sure there's more to it, because I felt like even the scenes with Bailey and Kira, like I felt like that was truncated. I'm sure it was more expanded on in the book.
Yeah, that was another weird. I explained why I thought that was weird. The Bailey and Kira thing. Kira just looked way too old to be messing around with a kid in high school.
Yeah, because Bailey's supposed to be a kid in high school. Yeah,
that just seemed kind of creepy to me.
It did, but I think at the same time you're introducing a queer storyline, but I think it was sort of a disservice because you don't get to expand on that. You're so focused on Veronica's story that you don't really have time to
got,
truncate it.
Yeah, like that kind of story is like its own movie in itself.
Exactly.
Like the coming of age or understanding like what you are, who you are.
Right.
And it kind of like got
buried,
boiled down to like a 5-minute scene that was just kind of, like I said, just kind of weird in the fact that it's a high school kid and clearly Kira was not a high school kid.
Right.
And that just that's just if it was like a man and a woman sort of thing going on there, we'd be really skeeved out by that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And I'm still skeeved out by it. It's just
I still like this movie, but it did feel like pieces of it were either completely taken out, because it did seem a bit choppy from point A to point B. The movie did not end how I thought it was going to end, which I was pleasantly surprised about and happy about, because I felt like after everything that Bailey did, Veronica really needed to like rise to the occasion here, and she does. I feel like
you really thought that she was just going to abandon her.
I really thought that the next day at school.
No.
I thought
this kind of movie always has that kind of ending.
I don't know because
this wasn't that kind of movie.
Maybe, but who knows? I mean, listen. Let's be honest. Hormones in teenagers.
But
it doesn't make sense.
It's still not that kind of movie. This wasn't a true to life teenage drama.
No, it wasn't.
This was
sort of exaggerated
and goofy road trip adventure.
Sure.
That just happens to be about a girl trying to get an
abortion. Right.
They're not going to end it with Bailey walking up and Veronica being like, "What? Do I know you?"
You know what?
that
the fact that she said those things in the limousine about Bailey really didn't bode well for Veronica.
That's why I think that happened just way too late in the movie.
Yeah, I was expecting the whole argument and splitting to come way sooner.
Yeah, it just happened so late in the movie. It was like build friendship, build friendship, build friendship, build friendship, build friendship, all the way, and then like when you're like 20% of the way from the ending, it's just like destroy friendship, rehabilitate friendship in the greatest possible way, end. It was like, come on, you gotta pace this out better.
Because even on the return home, when they're both saying goodbye in the cab, I felt like Veronica was withdrawing from Bailey. She's like, oh, we don't have to make this into a big goodbye. We're going to see each other tomorrow at school. And to me, that was like code. When she said that, like my heart sank, because I felt like, oh, she's going to just completely turn her back on Bailey. Bailey didn't. I don't think even Bailey expected Veronica to come to her because she's still in that corner by herself in the lunch area. So nothing changed for Bailey.
Well, nothing should have changed for Bailey. Bailey was the one
always
who
was steady, right?
Yeah,
no, I understand that, but somebody in that position, for somebody in that position to be kind of ostracized and pushed aside by someone you consider a friend, and that was like a nice sequence, like the flashback when she's little, and Veronica sees that Bailey's parents are breaking up, and she goes to Bailey. She goes, "Oh, let's just ride our bikes. Let's go now." Yeah. Because she wanted her friend to avoid that heartache, right? So that tells you about something about Veronica as a youngster. But as you get older, and obviously not everyone, but you have to admit, you and I have been through our teenage years. We knew people like this. We knew people that climbing that social ladder was more important than anything.
Yeah.
That maintaining that social status was more important than anything. We've seen it in other teen movies where people just make very poor choices because of short-sighted goals. So in this case, I really thought that Veronica was again going to turn her back on Bailey.
You know what? Maybe if the film was like another hour long, that would have made sense. But this was the end of the movie. You gotta. This film wasn't the type of film that ended with a crap ending where everybody's miserable. This is the type of movie that has the happy ending where people have grown in a positive way, and Veronica grew in a positive way. It was sort of like really crammed in that last section of the movie. Yeah. And I wouldn't even say it was like the last half or the last quarter. It was like the last 15 minutes of that movie. It was just really just crammed in there. And to me, that could have just been solved with just better pacing.
What could they have removed? Could they? I mean, to me, and I hate to say it,
I kind of would have removed the kidnapping sequence.
Yeah, it didn't really add anything, and I would have removed the whole Bailey Kira thing.
That was unnecessary as well. Yeah, I mean that whole bit could have been eliminated because the Bailey Kira thing. One, it was like okay,
it felt tacked on and it didn't go anywhere.
It felt tacked on, and it was like, all right, all right, we discover something about Bailey. Okay, let's have them discuss that. But then, like I said, the fact that they actually kind of hook up in there, and maybe was she supposed to be a high schooler, Kira? I mean,
no, I don't think so.
Yeah, it just, I don't know. Yeah.
She didn't look like any high school I've ever seen.
Yeah, if you're like in your late 20s and you're,
I mean, she's driving cars at a
she's driving monster trucks at the state fair.
So she can't be.
Yeah, if you're in your mid to late 20s and you're going after,
you should not be looking at high schoolers. God damn it! Yeah, what is wrong with you?
It's yeah. So that could have been gone, and then the kidnapping thing. Especially when you realize that the kidnappers are like, I mean, they're goofy. Yeah. I mean, what was it? We saw something else recently. Oh, Easy A. Was it Easy A where like there was like the Jesus group?
Freaks, yeah.
And they're like, you're
like
playing,
a caricature.
Yeah,
it's not even real.
You're playing it for laughs.
Yeah.
And you're making these people seem like these like real broad stereotypes.
Yeah, country bumpkins with not like, a lot of intelligence.
And it just sort of, it's like, okay, we're not in the real world here. This is a more
fantastical
comical take on the world. But then you sort of like get into the really absurd. I mean, you could have had pro-lifers in this thing, but to have them be like Breckenmeyer going, darn it, and gosh. That just seemed a little like the wife felt more sinister than
she did. She did.
Yeah, she was creepy.
She was creepy.
And like you could like it's okay to have like a little bit of
edge
there. They should have been like, you're a murderer, and like their truck should have been covered with like the really grisly stuff that people like that thrust in your face, just mutilated baby bits and stuff like that. Because that's what they're doing. It's not just, hey, choose life. It's you don't really run into that. It's more the crazy fanatical type.
Agreed. What did you think could have made this better?
Just maintaining tone. Like okay, you want to make a comedy? Let's keep it at a certain level. Don't dive into the absurd when it's convenient. Just pace it out better. Just seriously pace out the story a little bit better.
What did you think?
If you wanted to have Bailey get it exploring the fact that she's homosexual and whatnot, show that more. Don't just like, oh look, she's got making goo eyes at this. Oh, she took her hat off. She took her helmet off, and oh, it's a girl. Boing, cartoon wolf eyes shooting out of her head.
Yeah,
that was a little bit too much of a hammer blow there. Just have it be something that's discovered. You could have a lot of fun with that.
What did you think of the boyfriend?
The boyfriend was also kind of a little bit over the top in the fact that he was just this idiotic himbo. Yeah, and I just tough for you because I just got a jet ski and you're never gonna get on it. Like that's his way. He's like 18 or something. Well, 18 is not really that mature, especially
not for boys,
for some extreme sports guy.
Yeah,
but even still, he sounded like he was like a 10-year-old.
He volunteered at the puppy place.
He loves puppies. Yeah, I mean, he seemed like a nice guy.
She even said he wasn't complicated.
Yes, that's basically her way of saying he's incredibly stupid, but he's very pretty. It was like Elaine with the Dan Cortez on Seinfeld. Tell me, is his face? Did his face get hurt? So yeah.
Well, what did you think of the whole stalker thing?
That was a bit creepy, but that fit in that sort of like tone because you could see that sort of happening. I mean, the way everything works now, you could pretty much stalk anybody. Everybody has tracking devices on their phones.
Yeah, so two things about that scene when he follows her into the pawn shop. I felt very uncomfortable about that. Yeah. And the implications of what that means. But I also appreciated that the filmmakers and I guess the authors, because I think it's two authors for this novel, that they address something like that because we do, like you just said, we do live in a time where people are easily traceable.
Yeah. Through
their phones. And what an invasion of privacy.
Yeah.
I mean, he's like, I'm married to you and I don't do that. So
I mean, you could.
I could, but I don't.
We're on each other's Google Map thing, so.
I know, but still, that's just so weird. And to live in a time where your boyfriend, not even your spouse, but your boyfriend can track your every move, that's kind of unsettling.
Yeah, and especially if you don't even know about it. Like,
right.
Like I would never track you unknowingly. We put each other on the thing just so we know where each of us are.
Right.
To secretly be tracking somebody, that is super creepy.
So I thought that was an interesting, I mean, that's not something that we as young people had to deal with. No. Our phones were never that, or we never had phones back then, but it's not something that we had to deal with. Yeah. But this generation now, like how crazy and bizarre is that?
Yeah.
So that was an interesting.
When we went out, you were out.
That was it.
There was no way to reach you.
You had to go to a payphone.
You go to a payphone
and contact people. Yeah, so I thought that part of the story was kind of interesting, right? Because that's an actual reflection of the times where we have these little mini computers on us at all times and stuff. So, and the whole how she had to post on social media every couple of hours, I thought was an interesting commentary about life today. That's also not something that you and I had to deal with as young people.
Yeah.
So this wasn't a perfect film, but I enjoyed it tremendously. I really like the two lead actresses. I thought they were great. I thought they had really good chemistry. The script was fun. I agree with you. I think some things could have been tweaked. I think some things should have been reworked. I think some things shouldn't have made the final cut at all, but it is what it is. The production values were fine. The landscape. If I was going to give this a number from 1 to 10, I'd probably give this like a 6.5, maybe.
Yeah, I'd probably give it a 6.
6. What about you, Jay?
I'd also say 6.
What about you, Olive G?
7.5.
A 7.5. Who is your favorite character in this?
Probably Bailey.
Bailey was definitely my favorite character. Why'd you like Bailey?
Because she was cool.
She was cool. She was very unapologetically herself, wasn't she?
Yeah, I would say Bailey was the best character in the movie.
Yeah. I mean, Veronica had a good story arc, but
I mean, she had an arc. I wouldn't say it was good because, like I said, the pacing of it really was. I feel like they really botched that. I thought it was sort of like not so much as an arc as sort of like a slight incline upward and then a huge bump at the end.
okay, fair
Wait,
enough.
why did they call him Bob even though he was Dave?
What? The sign said Mitch, but he said his name was Bob.
I thought he said it was Dave.
No, he said his name was Bob. He said Mitch was a cover or something because he hated the government or something like that.
He didn't brush his teeth.
That was outrageous. Did you have a favorite character?
I guess if I had to say, it'd be Bailey. She was the best.
Bailey was my favorite character too. She knew who she was, and she didn't conform to social norms just to please other people. She was there for not there for herself, but she was unapologetically herself.
She was just a good friend, even though Veronica did not really deserve it.
Yeah, no.
And that was like the thing that was interesting about that, or about her character, was there wasn't really an ulterior motive for her.
No.
It wasn't like, oh, well, I needed to get out of town for such and such reason or something like that. It was.
You get the impression that Bailey would have done that for anyone, though. Just if somebody needed something, she would have helped.
Yeah.
Because even when she's in the bathroom at the beginning, she doesn't know who's in that stall.
Yeah.
And she's like,
"You need a ride?
Do you need a ride? Whatever. It's going to be okay." So she definitely was the better human being there.
All right.
Okay, so
6,
6.5, and 7.5. I think this was a good choice. I think as far as viewing goes, I think if you haven't seen it, definitely check out Unpregnant from 2020, currently streaming on HBO Max. I think it's one of their original movies.
Yeah. I'd say check it out if you got nothing else to watch. I don't know if I'd be like, oh, you got to see this movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like you're excited to see it like we were excited to see like the Batman or something. But I think,
yeah,
I think as far as stories go, storytelling, stories with young women leads who are smart and strong and decently fleshed out, I think this wasn't a bad choice. I think that sometimes seeing those stories told helps other people understand those particular things. And I think as a society, as a country, we're moving towards more conservative values. And unfortunately, that's going to have a huge impact. Listen, I think we've said this before. Abortions are going to happen, whether they're legal or not. If you come from privilege, it's going to be easy as pie. If you don't, if you're in these rural areas or areas that really limit choices, decisions are going to be made that could severely impact an individual. So I don't know. I think this is also an interesting movie to kind of open up dialogue about stuff like this. Yeah, I found it fun. It wasn't preachy. I think there were things that they were trying to convey, but it wasn't being shoved down your throat.
Mm-hmm.
You have nothing else to say?
Not really. Like I said, this was okay. It was,
All right.
it had problems, but it wasn't the worst thing I've ever seen.
It was better than Crawl.
Yes, it was better than Crawl.
And what was the other thing we watched? Oh, Moonshot. That was terrible. Jesus.
All right.
All
Let's
right.
wrap
So
this up.
better fare this week on HBO Max.
I thought Moonshot would be better.
I thought Moonshot would be better too. I don't know what I was thinking. Sorry I subjected everyone to that. But definitely check out if you got 2 hours and you've watched all the other choices on the streaming services, definitely check out 2020's Unpregnant. And that's it from us. And we will bid you all a good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.